Welcome to the Make More Money as a Dietitian podcast. I am your host, Christine Diane Thompson, and this podcast is for dietitians who are ready to stop apologizing for wanting more money, more freedom, and a career that actually honors everything that you bring to the table. This is where we ditch the guilt and start building something big. If that resonates with you, let's go ahead and get started with today's episode. Hey there, my friends. Welcome to episode 363 of the Make More Money as a Dietitian podcast. I'm excited to be with you again for another inspiring episode of the podcast. Today, I want to bring back a topic that I have spoken about on the podcast before, and I recorded a complete episode on curiosity back in 2023. It's episode 205. So if you haven't listened to episode 205, I will have it linked in the show notes. And the title is simply Curiosity. But I want to bring this topic back again today because I want to remind you of the magic behind this emotion, curiosity. So when it comes to curiosity, I feel like it is one of those emotions that is so magical because of how it works in our brain. So curiosity actually allows us to neutralize fear and resistance and release the outcome of whatever it is we are working towards. So we have no fear. We are not resistant because we are just curious. And can you imagine what would happen if you took action in curiosity instead of inaction because you're afraid of what would happen if, or you're just being resistant because you are constantly trying to tweak and cross all the T's and dot all the I's? Can you just imagine what would happen if you raised your rates because you're just curious about what would happen if you stated your rate, your new rate, to the next person you had a discovery call with or initial consultation with? Can you imagine, my friends? Because this is what happens with curiosity. Curiosity is the grande dame of emotions, in my opinion. She is magical. I believe curiosity is wise. I believe curiosity is a queen. Curiosity just allows us to flourish because, once again, we are not attached to an outcome. Curiosity is freeing. It allows us to just move forward without inhibition. It is magical. And that is why it is my favorite emotion. And that is why anyone who has coached with me has probably heard me explain to them about curiosity and just moving forward with curiosity when their fear and their resistance rises up. Now, Merriam-Webster Dictionary actually defines curiosity as an eager desire to learn and often to learn what does not concern one. It also is defined as inquisitiveness. And my friends, it's that inquisitiveness that releases the attachment to a specific outcome. And that's what you want when you're taking action on things that you've never done before or things that you have been resistant to doing. You want to be inquisitive. You want that. Okay? When you are inquisitive, your nervous system calms down. And like I said, there's actual neuroscience behind this because when your brain is in curious mode, it releases different chemicals than when it's in fear mode. Curiosity actually activates part of your brain associated with exploration and discovery. Now, think about this. Fear and curiosity literally cannot happen at the same time because they use different neural pathways. Okay. I want you to understand how curiosity can help you become more confident as a dietitian. Okay. How you actually cultivate curiosity when your default mode is fear and self doubt. How do you do this? Maybe you're asking, like, how do I even do this? Maybe you don't even know that your default mode is fear and self doubt. You may have been operating in that for so long, it feels normal, like a fish in water. Here are 3 ways that will help you rewire your business mindset so that curiosity can lead the way. Okay. So, number 1, I want you to replace I don't know with I wonder. And this isn't just semantics, okay? It's actual brain rewiring. So, I don't know how to price my services actually becomes I wonder what pricing strategy would feel both sustainable for me and valuable to my ideal clients. You feel the shift? You feel the difference? One actually closes down possibility when you say, I don't know. And the other one opens possibility up by being curious and having a curiosity mindset. Now, second, I want you to get curious about your fears. Okay? Get curious about your fears instead of trying to push them away. And when you're curious about your fears, you ask questions. So you ask questions like, what is this fear trying to protect me from? What would I do if this fear wasn't here? That's such a good question. And what is the smallest step that I could take to explore this situation a little more safely, make me feel safe? Okay. I want you to know that fears around business and your career aren't actually about business or your career. They're about deeper concerns like maybe disappointing people, being judged, or just proving your own worth. Now, when you get curious about what's really driving the fear, you can address the actual issue instead of just avoiding the surface symptoms. Now, the last way that you can bring curiosity into your practice as a dietitian is to embrace a beginner's mind in every situation. Even if you've heard similar things, if you've heard a thing 101 times, you can still get curious. Okay. You can also approach conversations with fresh curiosity. Okay. So you can ask yourself, what's unique about this situation this time? What haven't I considered about this situation now that I'm hearing it again? Is there something new that I could consider? What could I learn here? Instead of thinking we know everything. Like, we've been brainwashed to believe, not that we're not nutrition experts, but when you think you're an expert, you think you know everything and you don't allow anything else in. All right. I wonder what would happen if I just sat back and listened. Maybe I'll learn something new, you know? I want you also to know that this does not diminish your expertise. It actually enhances it, my friends. because experts who stay curious continue to grow. Experts who think they know everything stagnate and eventually, in my opinion, become irrelevant. Now, what happens when we go from curiosity to confident? Because that actually can happen. Okay, here is the beautiful thing. When you stop chasing confidence and start practicing curiosity, confidence actually shows up naturally. And I'm not talking about the fake it till you make it kind of confidence, but I'm really talking about the real, grounded confidence that comes from knowing you can handle whatever comes your way. Remember, releasing attachment to a specific outcome. When you release the attachment to a specific outcome, you end up feeling confident that you can handle anything that comes your way. Because curiosity teaches you that you don't need to have all the answers in the beginning. You don't need to be perfect to be helpful. You just need to be present, you need to be engaged, and you just need to be willing to explore. And when this confidence evolves naturally in this way from curiosity, it ripples into every area of your business. Pricing conversations become easier because you're curious about what would work for both you and your clients instead of anxious about whether you're worth it. Also, if you struggle with boundaries, which a lot of us do from time to time, I want you to know that boundaries end up becoming clearer because you're curious about what you need to do your best work instead of being afraid of disappointing people, being mean to people. I hear that so much. We are grown adults and we're worried about being mean. I'm laughing because it sounds like we're like still little kids at the playground playing in the sandbox and we don't want to be mean to Sally. We are grown adults still worried about being mean. We're not in high school anymore. We're not mean girling. We are business women. We are professionals. We are women primarily who say that we are professionals talking about being mean. I just want to reflect it back to you, my friends. I hear this term a lot. Okay. I also want you to know that client attraction potentially becomes a little more effortless when curiosity arises and we use it more often. Because curiosity actually makes you interesting, believe it or not. People do not want to work with someone who has all the answers, by the way. They actually want to work with someone who's genuinely interested in finding the right answers. Okay? You don't need to have all the answers. You just have to be someone who's willing to find them. All right? All right, my friends. So here is your challenge for this week. I want you to pick an area where you've been waiting for confidence to show up before you make a move. Maybe it's starting a new project in your business. Maybe it's raising your rates, or maybe it is launching your first group program. And instead of like questioning yourself about whether you're ready or not, I want you to ask yourself, what would happen if I were just curious about taking that first step? What would happen if I took just one step? one thing and do the one thing. Try it. Not because you're confident, but because you're curious about what would happen if. I wonder what would happen if. Write that little phrase down. I wonder what would happen if ... Put it on a Post-it note to remind you that you can always go to that phrase when you're feeling resistant, when you're feeling afraid, when you're experiencing self-doubt. I want you to go back to that phrase. So that's what I have for you today, my friends. I feel like this is Curiosity 2.0, but this is really about curiosity over confidence and how you can use curiosity to pave the way to a little more success in your nutrition business, your private practice. I hope this was helpful for you today. I am super excited to be with you again next week for our next episode on Make More Money as a Dietitian. Have a great rest of your day and the weekend ahead, and I'll see you then, my friends. Bye for now. Hey there, my friend. If something in today's episode hit different, I'd love that for you. This week, I invite you to take one action that feels a little scary, yet honors your work. And for more resources and ways to work together, head on over to manipuracenter.co. Remember, you're not asking for too much, my friend. You've just been settling for too little.